Morning. So my name's Ian Cartwright. I want to start by telling you a story. I want to talk about a guy called Steve. Now Steve could be like any one of us, run a business and all what goes with that. His business is old favourite of mine. He runs a tool hire business. So all guys love the power tools, don't they? And to imagine to work in power tools every day sounds something blissful. So Steve runs this tool hire shop. He has 4 depots in different places. He's built it up from scratch. He's a hard-working guy, tries his best to look after his staff, has a really good attitude towards his customers, always there first thing in the morning, always goes last thing at night, always looking for opportunities, always checking the invoice runs, always looking to see where the risk is. In fact, he's a workaholic. And one day Steve was walking around one of the depots and he notices one of the managers. And he's known this guy for a long time. And he notices that he's not as smartly dressed as he normally is. He notices that he's not as clean shaven as he normally is. He notices that his work is not as tidy as it used to be. And then he notices a few things within the company, like some of the cash customers who came in to hire things for a weekend hadn't brought the kit back and he hadn't chased it up. So his work was beginning to slip. But he knew him and he thought, what's wrong with Kevin? And do I approach Kevin and say, how are you getting on? Because he knew there was something going on in the background. Or do I just hesitate, take a step back and hope it goes away? A week later, Kevin, for the first time, never shows up for work. And Stephen discovers that Kevin's taken his own life. He discovers that his wife had left him. He discovered that the business wasn't making as much profit as everybody thought. He discovered that there were so many other things in his life, and he really wished he'd just walked up to him and said something. But he didn't, and so he feels guilty. And he changes his whole life because he feels responsible. So Kevin's story and Steve's story could be our story. So what do we do? Well, that's where the whole stuff about mental health first aid comes in. Mental health first aid, like physical first aid, it doesn't make anybody a therapist. It doesn't make anybody it makes people keen advocates for mental health, but it doesn't make them a professional. Like physical first aid doesn't make anybody a doctor or a nurse. It just gives them that opportunity to learn a few skills and know where to point people to. So mental health first aid is really 3 very straightforward things. It's being aware. Stephen was aware, but he didn't know what to do. But with a little bit of knowledge behind him and some simple training, he could be able to approach, assess, assist, and then point to the right direction where people can get that real professional help from. So that's what mental health first aid does. But also, Stephen feels as though he needs a bit more one-to-one support. And he's really hard on himself. He was hard on himself before. He's now even harder on himself. And he beats himself up something rotten over what happened. And that's where the whole idea of compassion-focused therapy fits in. And so Stephen sits down, has a conversation, and the question he was asked is, well, Stephen, what do you understand about compassion? And he said, well, it's a nice thing. It's about love and kindness and all these nice things. And then, but the therapist who's talking to him says, no, it's more than that. So the definition that compassion-focused therapy and coaching uses is compassion is the ability to alleviate suffering in oneself and others with courage and wisdom. I'll just say that again. It's the ability to alleviate suffering, remove it, in oneself and others with wisdom and with courage. And therefore there's a flow of compassion, if you like. And the first flow of compassion would be from another person to us. And that's not always easy to receive, is it? Because we think, now we're all right. But like Kevin says, now I'm fine. I'm all right. I'll be okay. It'll pass. And then the other flow of compassion, which is perhaps a little bit easier, would be from us to others. And we're quite good at that. That's quite easy. That's what we like to do, is to get alongside people and support them, but not always so good at receiving it back. But the third one, which is perhaps even more challenging for most people, is to have compassion for oneself. Now that's a challenge, isn't it? Because would we sometimes talk to other people the way we sometimes talk to ourselves? That's an interesting question, isn't it? Or when we're talking to ourselves in such a harsh, critical way, would we like it put on a big screen so other people can see what we really feel about ourselves? That's an interesting question as well. So those two things, the underlying thing which keeps them both together, is just that sense of compassion for others, for yourself, and receiving it. Whether that's mental health first aid training, because prevention is always better than cure. And for a small amount of investment, because in Steve's case, he really took it on board that what he wanted was a business where his employees flourished and grew, it not just within the company but within themselves, where their business became a centrepiece for good practice, for how it treats its staff and so on and so forth. So what do we do about that? Well, I've been doing this job for quite a long time in one form or another. And I sort of pulled this business together for that same reason. I didn't want people to suffer like I've suffered in the past. I didn't want blokes to be blokes and think, it'll be all right, it'll pass. I can tough it out. We don't talk much, guys. We rather bury our head in the sand and pretend it'll go away and everything's fine. But it never does. So to have the opportunity now to do this work, whether it's training or one-to-ones, whether that's therapy or coaching, compassion is not a soft word and not a soft option. It takes that wisdom and courage to make a difference.